what is your experience and what sort of palliatives can be in place if the experience has not been positive in terms of budget compliance?
The first problem when you look into the Nigerian budget is our electoral cycle tends to determine how people think when it comes to even budgeting. And so nobody is thinking on the long pipe. Nobody's thinking on the long run. Everybody's thinking about what can I do now? What can I do to just excite people now? And that's why all the conversations around competitiveness, you don't get to see much more in the States. Because it's about which road can I build, which school can I build, which quick win can I get, so that I can excite the people that we are working in some sort of way. Or how can I even recoup all my election financing and the rest of things like that. So the short-term thinking has also permeated everything. That's why even when you look at expanding IGR, Lagos has been fortunate because it's like a cascade of the same kind of party, and maybe some are maybe not perfect, but they have some kind of philosophy that they are running through. But most states have not had that luxury. And even because the new guy comes in and cancels whatever has been done before. And that's why we think the short-term thinking or the short-term stuff, it's a big problem when it comes to even budgeting. And a lot of times, the budget is just like a big wishful thinking. So you find a state, an average state in Nigeria, which is not an oil-producing state, does not get more than 4 billion naira in FAC a month. That means it gets 48 billion naira averagely in a month, in a year. And high GR, apart from the Lagos, the Ogun, the Delta, and the Rivers state, an average IGR starts from around 18, it's between 12 or maybe 8 and 18 billion. So you would do maximum an extra 20 billion on top of that, 68 billion. So what are you doing with a budget of 180 billion? What's Osun doing a budget of almost 200 billion? It's a sort of way you look at the numbers and you know that this is just gross castle in the air, and nobody's actually looking at the budget fidelity, as you put it, or budget realism, as some people will put it. And so it's important that, and that comes to the second problem, apart from the short-term thinking, which comes to the problem itself of poor fiscal management. A lot of times, the people that we have managing the finances of the state are not competent enough. There may be just been, just political favors. We need to put this guy there and we need to put him in the as a gatekeeper. But most times, most states have poor fiscal management. It's very painful that when people hear recession or depression or any form of economic slump, the standard globally is tighter fiscal management, much more stronger monetary expansion, and when you do more monetary expansion, you could target that you want to directly put money in the hands of the people, or you could liberalize the private sector more so that the private sector has that courage to borrow again or to stimulate the economy. We did not do tightening of the fiscal bet. We did not do that at all. We did not see less motorcade. We did not see less convoy. We did not see less appointments. So some sort of way, we continued ballooning our recurrent expenditure as we went. We just have big budget sizes now, but the recurrent expenditure has not slowed down in any way. And that's the same thing you see for states. We've continued the typical lifestyle, no tightening, and we're even talking about pay salaries. We've never asked what happens to the capital expenditure in the state. It's flattened out. It's almost nothing. So we did a lot of rigorous thinking when it comes to our state. And I guess the thing has to come with, it's going back to economics again. I'm sorry if I'm taking more enough time. It's an incentive structure. There's no incentive right now to say, a strong incentive to say a state needs to be competitive. Why would there be an incentive when there is always statutory allocation to be shared? Why would that incentive, when even that statutory allocation is not enough, there's always rounds and rounds of bailouts called Paris Club and giving different names that the government advances to the state. And why would there be incentive? Because if you even look at your classification of revenue, you have VAT that the state does not collect. So basically, it's the federal government that says, this is your share of VAT, and you have it. You have a CIT that the state participates in it based on population. So the CIT, even because an industry is cited in my area, does not guarantee that I even get some part of the profit. It's going to be shared, and the guy in Kano gets more. So what's the incentive for me to bring a company to my state, except the payee? Except the payee. Whereas you also should be able to participate in a much more incentivized way when it comes to the CIT. And you have people like Lagos making a strong case for fiscal restructuring because they look big autonomy, because we have the pot here. That should count for something when we talk about benefits. And that's where you see that it's a system. When first Dangote started the refinery project, the plan was to put it in Ogun and Odo in a local zone. And both of them were very, very unserious. So in some sort of way, there's poor incentive. And until we get this incentive, I'm not a fan of the full-blown federalism, because the numbers are here. If we go full-blown federalism that we love to always adore it, where we in the 60s, the law of states will crack down. Yeah. So if we can graduate it and incentivize it gradually, we can gradually begin to tell people, we are doing 13% now, we're doing 20% next year, we'll be 25% in 2 years now. So if by right now, even if you want to buy a governorship form for a contest, you know that this is going to be hard work as you get in there.
Every time you talk about models, you talk about plans, there must be something upon which it is anchored. I've tried to look at it, I call it socialist welfarism, welfarist capitalism, but it's just one single thing. We never got out of the military style era. If you find someone who is showing you that the MTF between now and the last 6 years is still showing heavy amounts of generator purchases, then they can't convince me that you are going to solve the power problem. Because your whole budget is still showing that you are spending heavily on the race. The crisis we had was a disruptor in terms of how we approach our economics. And you were right to say that state governments always felt that my campaign promise is that I'll create more jobs, I'll build more schools, I'll build roads for you. And that's always the narrative. Nothing has changed from that narrative, right? But the government has fundamentally believed that it is the one who creates jobs, which is not the same case. You are the enabler of it. That's why you find there's a disconnect between everything which they're doing, because in every single budget, has anybody ever studied the amount devoted to human capital development? Has anybody taken in the last 50 years, every budget, the amount devoted to human capital index? Maybe we forget, therefore, that the basis upon which you move out of a factor-driven stage of growth where we have, and this factor-driven growth, according to Michael Porter's analysis, he says that that's where you have a reliance on resources and on skilled labor. In terms of budgeting, for those who remember, we used to have budgeting money. At least I started my career working around the one by one gentleman called Professor Aboyade, whereby the budget is so structured that I can tell you the number of bicycles that will be imported in Nigeria and the number of people who will use it. And as such, I can calculate the number of effect it will have on the rubber businesses in Nigeria. That's why you call it budget. You can break it down and understand that the number of dropouts in Nigerian school is going high, so that means we need school. That's how you come to that conclusion of we need school. Not somebody giving it to you as a giveaway. So in terms of taxation, if you look at Nigeria's tax relative to Egypt, to South Africa, it's lowest. It's lowest because of what? You are not even taxing your GDP where you have the largest production in your GDP. They are not even in your tax bracket. It is not lowest, but there are three components to that. The people's compliance, the coverage, and most importantly, we do tax collection rather than tax administration. You see, that's why somebody can wake up and say, I'm locking down a business because they haven't paid tax. It defies economic reasoning. You don't lock a productive sector. You walk around it. Tax administration, therefore, enables you to understand that I'm going to walk around how this person is going to pay over a period of time. Tax collectors' mentality is to lock you down, chain you, and then hold you by the neck and say whether you pay or not. I mean, it doesn't work. So you find the default rate being extended over time. So you ask me, what should the government have done? Because the work had been ongoing up till the particular point in time, you couldn't get the results immediately. What we were looking for was, one, we weren't going to get into the new phase whereby government will stop cutting. We understand it will go for 2 years or so, they will continue those jobs, but then they'll begin to dial back and take those actions that allow productivity to actually, because at the end of the day, it's all about productivity. You can't pay tax when you're not productive, when there's no wealth creation. So basically the question was that the government decommissioned the economy. Understand that terminology. If you decommission a battalion, you could shut it down. So in recalibrating them, you have to take everybody through a period of dial-up again. So right now you say we're out of recession. We're technically out of recession, or we're in what economists will call hysteresis. What it means is you find a misery index going up high unemployment rate, you have a double-digit inflation rate, and I think the fourth factor, I think it is. So I just needed to be quite critical about decision-making. Is that at the end of the day, the consequences and the unintended consequences are for everybody to see. So to that data you are talking about, saying that youth unemployment is a major thing, you have 3 levels of problem. Unemployability, which is the major one. Then 2, skills gap is so huge. And then the third one is that these gentlemen are going to increase your costs, which you think you are saving money in terms of deviancy, the cost on security, the cost on health services. You are going to spend the money which you refuse to, you might as well help them.